Well, I guess it's official. We're now on Facebook. I really wasn't sure about this at the start. But then a friend of mine said something that just made all kinds of sense. She said, think of it more as a conversation. I like that. But I'm already finding out on my own is that it's wiping the walls out between you and me, and I really like that. It allows us into each other's worlds, or I guess in my case, the hotel room. When I think about things I want to post cool stuff, slick stuff, neat stuff. But most of the stuff I'm going to post is going to be raw stuff like this. This is just who I am. So if this is truly a conversation, then I say let the conversation begin.
So be it, Jedi.
He's no good to me dead.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
You know what's going on?
Welcome back, everybody, to Star Wars After Hours post The Last Jedi edition.
Yes.
Our first podcast after the premiere. Me and Josh both went to the fan event. Excuse me.
I actually went to a later showing, so technically it wasn't the fan event.
It was not worth it.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you see anything? I've not even looked into it really, as far as like if you saw anything different.
No, we got a John Williams featurette, which was cool. He's the man. And we got like oversized Topps trading cards and free popcorn. And that was it. I mean, I would have been happy with a poster. I would have been happy with anything else but trading cards, but that's pretty much all it was.
Yeah, I ordered the poster when I got my ticket.
So I got the poster from Walmart, so
well, there you go.
Yeah. But anyways, dude, I think our reactions, I think this is going to be a good podcast because I think our reactions were very different to the film. I could already tell because you texted me that night. I think you just said like, holy shit, or something like that.
OMFG.
Yeah. OMFG. Yeah, and I left the feeling, I left the theater feeling not OMFG.
Really?
Yeah. I think that upon further viewings, it's going to grow on me. And I think that once we get context, and the series wraps up in 9, and we can view it as a trilogy, it'll get better. But yeah, I just have a lot of conflicting thoughts about what I just saw, and I know a lot of people do. But how do you want to start this one off, man? How should we kick this one off?
Well, first thing I think that we should announce that number 1, if you haven't seen The Last Jedi, you shouldn't listen to this show because we're going to get spoiler filled. This is going to be everything that you don't want to hear before you see The Last Jedi. And also, this is our first Facebook live show.
Yeah, so welcome Facebook people.
So if you are watching and you have any questions or anything like that, we'll be checking after we do a little intro and a little bit of talking. So if you have any questions, we will address them.
Yeah, we have one already, but we can get to that. Let's talk about it first, you and me.
Yeah, our thing, and then we'll just take on whatever we get after we give our kind of personal thoughts on it. And again, this is our first reaction, primary thoughts. Once we see it a few times, we're going to go deeper into it and then also break down our theories and go with that. And
yeah, I might want to even do like a character by character breakdown of this one too.
Yeah,
because there was just so much packed into this movie.
Yeah,
I think that was one of the strong points, is the where it took the characters. I really did like, for the most part.
mm-hmm.
For the most part, some of the decisions and how they got there could have used some work, but
Mm-hmm.
I liked everybody's final destination in this one for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was a perfect movie. I don't think it was I still think Empire Strikes Back is better. Everyone's like, this is the best Star Wars of all time. No, this one's like the best of this era, I guess, of Star Wars. I'm still kind of back and forth between Rogue One and The Last Jedi, because Rogue One was such a good movie.
Yeah, it was.
It was such
Rogue
a good
One was
movie,
great.
but this is building on the story, and it serves a whole different purpose. I think that this is the best Star Wars sequel, like, as far as carrying on the story, but I think that the best sequel as a movie is Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. Is Empire still number one on your all time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like it. I think it's just it's action packed, but it slows down in the correct spots, and you get a lot of story out of it, but it doesn't continue off of A New Hope as well as The Last Jedi continues off of The Force Awakens.
Yeah, Return of the Jedi is actually my favorite movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I really like that one too.
Yeah. That's my favorite Star Wars.
You see the Force most in that movie, I think.
Yeah. All right, well, let's do why don't you start us off? And I want to hear what worked for you and maybe what didn't work for you.
Yeah, so again, I'm going to have to watch through it just to get, everything. First thing that really bothers me.
This is just raw, visceral.
Yeah, we
reaction,
saw it last night. The first thing that bothered me is how Phasma died.
Yeah. I'm actually so happy that I was never like super into the character. I was like, oh, she's a shiny stormtrooper with a cape.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like too cool or unique about her, and I'm glad I didn't get into the character, because if I was like a Phasma fan, I know Phasma fans are out there,
Mm-hmm.
I would be upset. Just reminds me of like this generation. I almost picture like Phasma as the Boba Fett of this generation,
Mm-hmm.
and how upset I still am. 23 years later since I saw Boba Fett fall into the Sarlacc.
Mm-hmm. How such a cool character.
Yeah, how such a cool character.
Not
Yeah.
so much. We didn't even see like as much of the cool, like with like someone with the most potential to be like a really cool character, but then just going out like that, like, and it wasn't even like, because with Phasma, like, I don't even know if you could say that Finn killed her. It's basically like she fell off of like she fell into space, kind of, or into fire. Like,
I think it'd be
like
funny
the
if she
Terminator.
came back again. She mysteriously escapes from Starkiller.
Yeah,
I didn't read the book. I'm not a Phasma guy. I don't really care if she got out. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then she shows up she has like 2 minutes of screen time, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, well, she has a little bit of time, and then that fight's pretty cool.
It was cool.
I really like that fight, but it was just an unsatisfying ending, because I feel like Finn should have killed her.
Yeah, I would have liked that, but hey, maybe we'll see her. Maybe we'll see her again. I'd get a kick out of that, man. I'd like it a lot if we saw her again. I think that'd be funny.
Yeah, but I think that scene, like, I think when we were talking about the trailers, that scene, I think that armor was made for that scene, pretty much, because of how the reflections, and then how the electricity, how it's like impervious to electronically powered weapons. So that's kind of a interesting thing to notice at that part. And then like her like spear staff thing, that was interesting.
Yeah,
it wasn't as cool as I thought it would be, but it was neat.
Yeah. Overall, Phasma is just really I mean, I feel it, man. I feel the wasted potential in that one.
Mm-hmm. Especially after like the whole like double agent Phasma.
Yeah. There was a lot of cool theories, but yeah, there was it felt wasted to me, and I was never a fan of the character, but I'm sure fans of the character are not happy about the way that one went. But it was so good to have her back.
Yeah, it was.
Did you get that?
Yes. So good to have you back.
So good to have you back.
Yeah, that was an interesting encounter. That whole situation was interesting. I mean, I'm going to say I really liked it, but I think that it was kind of a little bit cheesy that the entire thing was like a gigantic Star Destroyer like going after the last Resistance ship.
Yeah.
At like the slowest pace possible.
I know. The whole
we don't
thing
have enough gas. We're going to run out of gas.
Let's just follow them until they run out of gas. Should we send any TIE fighters or bombers ahead, No, just shoot at them slowly until they run out of gas. But hey, no, that doesn't make it makes too much sense.
Yeah. But like the one I'll go from there saying how sick it was when that ship was destroyed, when the what's the name again? Was it Supremacy?
Supremacy, yeah.
When Holdo just kamikaze light speed into that thing and just tore it apart.
That was one of my high points in the movie for sure.
I said,
it's like, whoa,
fuck. Like I said that, and then like Carly looked over at me for a second, and she's like, shit. Even she was like, it was like, seriously, that was one of the coolest kills.
Yeah, that was rad, dude. That was a top 10 anime death for sure.
Yeah, speaking of anime, I was kind of upset that there was no Super Jediing.
I mean, can you say that? There was some super Jediing.
Well,
there was some for sure super Jediing.
Not in the Super Saiyan.
I mean, their hair didn't grow more doper,
but Rey harnessing the dark side on the island, that was pretty gnarly.
Yeah. She was lit for sure.
Yeah.
And Luke pretty much went next level, dude. I would say Luke went Super Saiyan for sure.
Well, his wasn't so much Super Saiyan as it was like a controlled extreme force power.
Controlled extreme force power.
Because he's he's projecting himself across the galaxy into is he even at all a physical form? He's kind of a half and half metaphysical form that I don't know. And then I like how he came back in his in his form that he was when they first had their interaction, where you see in the flashback.
Yeah.
Flashback too. That was the first flashback that happened in the middle of a Star Wars movie before.
Yeah, we didn't get a force back. We got actual flashbacks, which I found surprising.
Yeah, and a lot of people, including me, was thinking, Ryan Johnson, he does time travel, flashback type things like that. So I definitely saw something coming. I mean, you can say that about Rogue One, but it started out like that. It's showing like the growing process of like, oh, this is when she was young. And then it has like a little flashback, but not anything in the saga films.
Yeah.
Nothing in the Skywalker saga.
Sagar.
The Skywalker saga. Nothing in the Sky.
The Skywalker squeaker.
Yep. You got me. You got it.
Yeah. So, I mean, is there anything else you didn't like?
Well, there's one thing that I was half and half on. Snoke.
Yeah.
Okay, again, if anyone's coming in late, you can obviously see on the screen if this is live. If anyone's watching this, we're not really paying attention right now, but but if you're watching this, we're going to keep on saying spoilers, because I know people will go in and out of a live stream.
Yeah, so Snoke gets chopped in half.
Yeah. In a cool way, though.
In a very cool way.
Yeah, so I like that, but I think they should have saved that for 9.
I think so, too.
But, again, it is supposed to show a reflection of Vader and Sidious at the end of Return of the Jedi, where, he kills his master because he's going to the light side, and then he, continues to that point, and then he dies. Darth Vader dies, so it's different. But it's a mirror to that as far as, not so much as it's repeating the same thing. It's a mirror image as you see it in a different way, to where, you feel like there's going to be that redemption, but then you realize that he's killing him, and then after that he's like, I have ultimate power right now. Yeah. I'm going to rule the galaxy using the dark side still. I don't care, about the Sith. Let the past die. Get everything out of the way. I'm the supreme leader now. And,
Do you remember that line in Force Awakens when Kylo is talking to Darth Vader's helmet? And he says he's going to finish what he started.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is what he meant.
Yeah.
Because Vader never got to... Anakin, he made that offer to Padme, let's rule the galaxy together and make things how we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And he never quite got that. It was always just Palpatine kind of doing what he wanted. And Darth Vader ended up just being an enforcer pretty much, right?
Right.
And so I think Kylo kind of, in a way, became what Vader wanted to be but couldn't be. And
mm-hmm.
He's there now, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
He's the Renperor. That's an internet thing already.
Really? Honestly, I've purposely not gone and looked at a bunch of people's different reviews and things, because I wanted to be fresh talking about it. There's so many things in this movie that it's hard to break it down to stuff. I'm telling you what I don't like about it and things that I'm kind of half and half on, because that's easier than telling you all the things that I liked about it.
Yeah.
I don't like that they didn't use the guerrilla walkers as much as they should have.
I don't even think I saw the cannon fire.
Yeah,
one of those.
They fired on Luke Skywalker. That was it. They fired on the door a little bit, but they weren't moving.
Yeah, the Battle of Crate wasn't really
and then those huge cannons, they didn't use those. They're supposed to be able to kneel down and use their back cannons. They didn't even use those cannons.
Yeah.
They used that mini Death Star thing.
Yeah. I could have done without that.
I really could have done without that. That's one thing I didn't like. I was like, what was it? Like a
mini
battering
Death
ram.
Star tech. It'll crack this thing open like an egg. It's like, all right, sick, but we have these sick new walkers with giant cannons on their back. Can't they do something?
Yeah, there's 10 of them. And then in the trailer, there was like a bunch of different like smaller walkers, and then there was the like AT-ATs, and then they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything. There wasn't enough fighting. I mean, those little ski things, I expected a lot more. I expected them to be like weaving in and out of them around their legs and doing stuff like that. But I really did like the visual aspects of that. Just the red and the white and all that looked really cool.
Yeah, it looked cool. It just nothing really that sick. Like it wasn't like that cool of a battle.
Because I look at that as like the Battle of Hoth. Like
Yeah.
if you're looking at it like putting it side to side with the Battle of Hoth, then it's like, Hoth is, way better of a battle, but it's one of the best battles in Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's so simplistic at the same time too, but it's like I really enjoy Empire Strikes Back, so I'm always going to say that everything in Empire Strikes Back is good. But yeah, I mean, I could name things that I don't like. I just realized that our light's not on.
What light?
That one. The one that makes us look professional.
Oh. Luminous beings are we?
And how about that lighting company?
Fucking retards.
Yeah.
We talked about it on, I think our last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Either the last one or the one before that, but...
Yeah, I think we did it. We talked about it on the last one that was at your house.
Yeah, the lighting company that did Yoda totally... Somebody at the company biffed it, and I that was one of the surprises that I wasn't surprised about.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of that, because we had to cover it.
Yeah, but I was really kind of like a little bit trepidatious about what he would look like, and how much like CG and how much puppetry they used. I really liked it. I like how he was different than the prequels. I like how he was closer to what he looked like in Return of the Jedi. And that was really cool. And again, that goes to, just talking about Yoda. There's so much into that. So maybe we'll go into the whole Yoda part after we talk about what you don't like about it, because I like that Yoda part and it has a significance in the Force itself. But the Leia thing kind of is weird. It's not that I didn't like it. I thought that it was cool that they didn't kill her off, but I also think that they have a lot on their hands, like for 9.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that for a minute, because they had, I mean, the whole movie was planned out, and they were planning on having her for 9.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So it's easy to say things that you think could have happened. Like, one of my first thoughts was like, okay, Leia's still around. Maybe like her light speeding through the supremacy would have been like the perfect opportunity. And then I'm like, well, you can't really cut up what you have, and then you have to do something different with Holdo, and then you have to like Leia just randomly, like, there's no dialogue for her to like, be able to like, oh, we need Leia to do this now. Mm-hmm. Have her shoot through that. You can't just switch it up like that. So
yeah.
And then if they did that, her and Luke wouldn't have had that scene on Crate. And it's like, I think they kind of just what they had to do it. I mean, they would have either had to have her die right at the beginning, which I want to talk about because that's one of the things that I didn't like. Not that she didn't die, but some implications of that scene.
Yeah.
I don't think that you're thinking of what I'm thinking. I don't think that conversation is going to go the way you think.
Well, I'm thinking of two parts, but
I dislike it for probably a different reason than the obvious one, which was like Superman, Mary Poppins, Leia. But yeah, I disliked it for a
no,
different reason.
that's not the part really. I don't know. Well, it just go on. Yeah, I think you know what's up.
Yeah, so they would have either had to have done it at the beginning and then just cut all her stuff, and that would have felt bad, I think, because the movie was already pretty depressing. We lost like a lot of people, and that would have just been kind of gnarly.
Yeah, you're down to like 10 people or something like that in the Resistance. Not even the Resistance anymore. It's back to the Rebellion. That's one thing that's cool, is that they're pretty much moved back into the into the Rebellion. Like the Rebel Alliance is being reborn out of the Resistance.
Yeah, how? There's like 15 of them.
Yeah. Well, it's because like the people under Leia were still the rebels.
Yeah.
And then the entire anti-First Order was the Resistance. But all of the capital, everything, all of those people were either destroyed or they don't want anything to do with them.
Yeah. The galaxy is probably so tired of war at this point. Like, oh my gosh.
And speaking of tired of war, there's people who aren't tired of war, which are in Canto Bight, which is so short. I wanted to see so much more of Canto Bight.
A lot of people hate Canto Bight.
Really?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was cool.
It.
That's one of the things that people are bitching about.
Yeah, especially after listening to the audio book for Canto Bight, it kind of got me ready for it. And you know things, and you see like little Easter eggs. Like I saw one person in there that was in the book. It was one of the sisters that were weird, that are from a whole different alternate dimension or something like that.
Yeah.
Which they didn't get into in this, which
didn't expect them to be honest.
I didn't expect them to, but I feel like they're going to have to address that at some point if it's just going to like randomly come up in a book and then they're like, there's different dimensions where the Force went. Like, when did the Force go somewhere? And it's like, just kidding. You're not going to talk about this. But we totally went off track. We were talking about Leia.
Oh, okay. Well, want me to start on my things I didn't like?
Yeah, how about let's go. Yeah, because that was pretty much like most of the main things that I didn't like about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to hear your take, and maybe I'll agree with you, maybe I'll disagree.
Okay. All right, well, first of all, I thought it picks up right after The Force Awakens, right? Which was kind of necessary, but it's starting to make the whole and now we only have one left, and it's starting to make the whole sequel trilogy feel really condensed, and almost like something you can just hold like in the palm of your hand, and just small. And this story to me felt like really like boxed in a way. Like, think about Revenge of the Sith. We go to Coruscant, we go to freaking Felucia, we go to Kashyyyk, Mustafar. I mean, Episode 2, Camino, Coruscant, Geonosis. I mean, this movie, we get to see Canto Bight, which is cool, and then the rest is pretty much in space. And Crate. Yeah,
space, Crate, Canto Bight, and then what was the first? What's their regular one? Takodana. Yeah.
And the planet that the Rebel base was on, or the Resistance base, was named something else, but
I don't remember. I should remember, but
I think the world building and building out the rest of the universe, which is something George is really good at, is starting to feel a little lacking to me. It feels like there's this one conflict between the First Order and the Resistance, and we're a part of that, and we see it up close. But the rest of the galaxy is like dead almost. It doesn't seem like there's much going on. And I don't know why it feels that way, and it's hard to.
I think I know.
Do you know kind of what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I think part of it, I'll give you 3 things that I thought of about this. So, number 1 is where Rian Johnson got his source material, kind of. And when you're talking about things like Buck Rogers and things like that, they're just single story. This is one thing that's happening. These are other things that are wrapping around this one situation, and then the story is ended. And then, what happens next? Like that type of thing. And there's that, which is possible. That was a intentional thing that Rian Johnson did with the story. And also, you can get into the fact that there weren't any other Resistance people. We watched a good amount of them just all die.
Yeah.
But and then also, I think that this one they really wanted to build on the people who they had already. But I hate that they didn't introduce any permanent characters. There's no one that they introduced that are new that are going to make it into 9.
Well, Rose, right? Is she dead or
She died. Oh wait, no.
I
guess
don't think she died.
They're not totally sure if she's dead, because I guess same thing with like Finn took her back to the thing, and
yeah, he put the jacket over her, I remember. Yeah, I don't think she's dead.
Yeah, so she might keep going with them, but other than that, and dude, we lost Admiral Akbar.
Fucking sad. I heard that his voice actor died, and they kind of retired the character out of respect.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a bummer.
I was wondering how they were going to do that, though, because yeah, I heard that the voice actor died.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's we saw him though. I like that we did see him in the movie for enough time to know that he was there, and yeah, but that leads us back to Leia.
Yeah. Okay. So, I actually didn't mind the pulling herself back to the ship scene. I would have done that differently. I would have maybe just shown her hand, like reaching out, and have like the Force sound effects where it's just kind of like the bass. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever somebody taps into the Force, you can just hear the bass in the theater. And I would have shown like just her hand reaching out, and maybe like the debris like start to go by her hand instead of her like reaching out like the Statue of Liberty and just moving like a chess piece.
Yeah,
it was kind of funny, but here's what that doesn't matter to me. Mm-hmm. That scene doesn't matter to me. What I didn't like was the bigger implication of that, which was I almost got this one right. Remember how we were talking about this one when we first started theory crafting, and I was like, or no, it was when we first saw the trailer, and I was like, okay, there's no way Kylo pulls the trigger, but dude, I think it's going to happen anyway, and he's going to get pissed at Snoke, and he's like, oh, I wasn't ready to lose my mom, and it's this whole other thing that happens, and it's like messing him up inside. So what actually happened in the movie is that pretty much happens. He knows that Leia is on the bridge, and he's all torn up, and he can't fire, right? And then the 2 TIE fighters next to him in his squadron fire anyways, and you can see after that he's like visibly upset about it. Like, I think that, I mean, from all the cues I was given in the movie, I think that he thought Leia was dead, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what you would think? Like,
yeah, I think that he still thinks that she's dead because he didn't see her otherwise.
No,
right?
He didn't see her otherwise, and so that's what bugs me. There's this whole loose end, like it never gets talked about again. You don't see like a quiet moment maybe in his chamber where he's like contemplating it. that whole thing where, that could have been such a powerful like thing, that it could have been like a catalyst for him to, not turn to the light side, because that's not where the movie went, but maybe for him to be mad at Snoke or mad at the First Order or something. But it's like that it was like a dangling like plot thread that just, I feel like, didn't matter at all, and it got pushed into nothing. And for some reason that really bothered me. And I don't know if it's because I was it's not that it was a theory that I came up with, but it's like it kind of made it obvious in the movie that he was upset about it, like he thought his mom died, and then the movie goes on. We just don't hear about it again. We don't see him upset about it again. Leia survives. I don't know if he senses that she survived or whatever.
You would think that he would, because of
but why,
powerful he was. But
why should I be left to assume that? Yeah. Like, why wouldn't he know immediately? I mean, he sees it, he senses her, and he sees it blow up. So wouldn't he feel her reaching out with the Force? And I don't know. It was just like,
unless they've blocked each other out or something, he's blocked her out from the Force somehow. There's some sort of non-communication between them.
Yeah.
Where, I think he still, by the end of the movie, thinks she's dead.
That's what
I'm
saying.
I think that he's using that kind of towards his turn to the dark side. And this is my really strong feeling after, like, just talking in this just right now.
Yeah.
I was just thinking this, is that I have a feeling that they took out some scenes in The Last Jedi with Leia. And remember when we saw in production photos Leia and Kylo Ren in the same soundstage on the same set? I'm thinking that they're going to use that in 9. So then it's going to be like he doesn't think that she's alive, and then it's going to be like he sees his mom, and then they're going to have their confrontation kind of, and then either he turns to the light or someone else kills him. Maybe the Knights of Ren come back, which is another thing I'm kind of upset about, that they didn't come back.
Yeah.
So there's all of that.
Yeah, and that's why I want to partially reserve judgment until we see 9, and you can judge the series as a whole. Because I feel like when people saw Empire, a lot of people could have been like, "Damn, that shit was depressing as fuck."
Yeah,
like I could totally picture it. Like, oh, the swamp was fucking boring. Like Hoth was cool, and the big reveal was cool, but other than that, the movie was dark and depressing as fuck. And like,
yeah, I mean, there are some happy points. You get information that's something that is needed that has the twists. I think that the sequel, all of the sequels in the saga have a twist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a few twists. There's quite a few twists, actually, in The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
But just that, that Leia, is she going to die? Is she not going to die? That whole thing. And then there's the, just Kylo Ren killing Snoke.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, what?
We should get more in depth in. But yeah, that was the first thing that kind of irked me, just that open, like, this cool opportunity that nothing happened with. The next thing I didn't like, while I thought it was super rad, I didn't like that Snoke was killed off with us knowing literally nothing about him. Why is he so powerful in the Force? Why is his face so fucked up?
Mm-hmm.
What has he been through? Who is he? Where's he from?
Yeah, why is
like,
his
we know
entire body messed up?
Yeah, why is his entire body, like, what happened to him? we leave knowing nothing, and that bugs me.
Yeah. And so that kind of brought me back to what I think both Andy Serkis and Rian Johnson said, is that we won't be learning much about Snoke in this movie. But, like, it won't go into his past. But Rian Johnson has a trilogy coming up. And he said it's going to take place in another side of the galaxy with a whole new group of characters. I'm wondering if it's going to deal with Snoke.
I hope not.
I don't know.
When it comes to that, I think some things are better off just not knowing.
But I don't know, though. There's so many things, because he's incredibly strong. Like, he used the Force through a hologram.
He used the Force through a hologram. Rey was like one of the strongest things we've ever seen, and he just bops the lightsaber off her head.
Yeah.
He is too cool and powerful to just Force lightning Kylo.
Mm-hmm.
He bounces it off the floor.
Yeah.
Into him. He's
pretty
like
interesting.
Other than Luke, I mean, he's definitely the strongest thing we've seen. And then he just dies.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know. That was one of the coolest things that The Force Awakens set up. And we just don't get... I felt like there was no payoff for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it made for a really cool scene.
Yeah.
I liked the scene, but it was that I didn't know anything about him. I got no... that was another thread that wasn't tied up. It was just incinerated.
Yeah, it was like he was a character that served a purpose not on his own, but for, for Kylo Ren. Like, that was just kind of a story device rather than another character that was going to be working within the story,
Right, and when the parts that he did have were super cool, all the dialogue, whoever wrote the dialogue, well, Rian Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Did a great job. The dialogue was really cool, and I was really feeling the character.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
And then he died. Even maybe just a couple sentences of exposition, like, dude, not to get too Dark Knight, but like, do you want to know how I got these scars?
Yeah.
Like, anything, dude. Just tell me anything about this character. Just so we know, and then you can kill him. It's fine, but it's like there's still so many questions that aren't answered about him.
Yeah, that is one thing that bothered me quite a bit. Is how short-lived he was, because I was very much ready for Snoke to be, a huge, powerful Force being, like, that would continue into 9 and would continue to be the main, like, antagonist. And so...
Me too. He used the Force lightning, and I looked over at my brother in the theater, and I was like, Sith. And then I thought it was going to be, like, going to this whole, like, awesome shit, and then it was just like, blah, 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 dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other problem. Like, all the big things that it was like building us up. It was like, oh.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like too.
It was a really cool sequence, and they did it right, but I think that... Do you think that belongs in 9? That whole scene? Do you think that would have belonged in 9? Or do you think... I mean, obviously they have a reason for it, and they're going forward with something else, making Kylo Ren the main antagonist now, rather than having this higher Force and saying, oh, this is the main antagonist, and then Kylo Ren can still turn. I think that the real twist is taking away the main antagonist and creating a new main antagonist who has more of a conflicted feeling, but is more hands-on, more on the ground, and is more relatable, and to the story and everything like that. And I think that now he's never turning back.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I did appreciate, that I did like, because it didn't that didn't make me feel the way I wanted to feel, but it made me uncomfortable, and that's rare for a film to do that. It didn't make me feel the way I wanted to feel, but the way I felt was like genuine. And I think if done right in 9 was probably the right choice. And this movie, I've heard other people have described it as a roller coaster, and for me, it really was a roller coaster.
Yeah,
because he killed Snoke, and I was like, he threw the lightsaber to Rey, or however that sequence worked. I don't remember. Like I said, I've only seen it once. They both got lightsabers. He helped her out. They're fighting the Knights Ren. I was like, fuck yeah. Like, this is about to get sick. And then he sees that throne, man. And he can't get away from that. And all the build up, all the, Force visions of him and Rey. And he's not a villain in the vein of his grandfather, Darth Vader. He's not this unimpeachable, just malignant force of nature. He's vulnerable still in the Force backs, and you can see this character that has little pathways back to the light side, and you can see the cracks in him. He's got a soft spot for Rey, and he's still confused about what happened with Han Solo, and he's not this unimpeachable, just pure evil being. He's a mixed force. And
like Darth Vader's like he was meant originally to be mechanical, to be completely free of any emotion other than hatred, but such an internal hatred that he didn't need to show it through any real emotion other than just killing.
Right. And
whereas Kylo kind of has like, again, something that I was listening to, I was listening back to an old podcast, one of the ones with Dale, or it was one of the videos, something where Kylo Ren, he'll mess up his ships and stuff like that. He'll like screw up electronic things, but he doesn't kill his own men very often.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of a difference also, which you see that he is still conflicted. But I mean, what do you think at the very end of this, at the very end of The Last Jedi, do you think that his internal conflict is going to still make any change in 9? Or do you think that he's all the way, like he's all in now?
I don't know. That's what makes him such an interesting character. That's why I loved him in The Force Awakens. I really liked him in this movie. I feel like, as far as writing goes for episode 9, and maybe even as far as the character goes, I don't know. I don't really know at this point what's left in him. I feel like maybe the chance to go back was there, and he chose something else instead. He had kind of, I think before he had started on this young path, and he was young and confused, and we found out what happened with Luke.
That was surprising.
And he kind of got lodged in with Snoke and was still trying to find his place. And so I never would have expected him, to turn in 7 or anywhere that we've seen him earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like when that moment came with Rey and he had that choice and he could have done the right thing. I mean, the world was his at that point. The choice was his. And he made the choice that he made.
Yeah. So you think that was the final straw? Like that was it? That was his last chance for us to really see him make that decision. We might see a little bit of conflict, maybe some internal voices and things like that, because, just what Luke said, I don't remember the exact wording, but he said, what if you kill me, I will, I'll
haunt you. I'll haunt you forever, just like your father. Something like that.
So that means that he knows that maybe Kylo Ren is feeling remorse over killing Han Solo. And now he thinks that his mom's dead. So he's got to have some sort of remorse about that. But he's now treating it as remorse as how Darth Vader treated him killing Padme. So instead of using that as a tool to change his life, to turn him back to the light, he used that and harnessed the hatred behind it and was angry and blamed other people for it,
Mm-hmm.
And because originally Darth Vader blamed the Emperor for it. We saw in the comic books. Shows like right after he gets put in the suit and he's pissed off. And so I think that, like what we were saying before, it's going to be very interesting to see if Kylo Ren has any sort of confrontation with Leia from some sort of scene that they cut out of The Last Jedi.
I would be surprised if that didn't happen now.
Mm-hmm.
Because we didn't get Leia wrapped up. But to close my thoughts on Kylo, I think we had the moment, and I think the moment passed, and he chose something else instead. And I think maybe even just to, I don't know if it was intentional. I'm sure it was intentional because Rian Johnson, but we get that last scene on the Falcon,
mm-hmm.
the Falcon, and it's the last kind of like force connection scene between Kylo and Rey in the movie, and it's basically Rey looking out of the Falcon and Kylo looking up.
Mm-hmm.
And Rey sees him, and she closes the door.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the end.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking that closing the door is both, physical and metaphysical, as far as her closing the door between their connection in the Force. Because really it was held together by Snoke, but even after that they had some sort of connection with each other. So, Snoke kind of forced that connection. Forced it. He forced it with the Force.
Literally, bro.
He forced it into it being that type of situation where she would be conflicted because she's talking to Kylo, and Kylo's conflicted because he's talking to Rey, and then he's being manipulated just to get Rey to come there because he doesn't know that Snoke's manipulating him. And again, Snoke was probably listening in on those conversations.
Yeah, creeping.
What else is he going to do from that throne?
I don't know.
That was a pretty cool throne. That throne room was awesome.
It was a cool room.
The Praetorian guards were pretty sick.
they were a lot cooler than I thought they were going to be. I
Yeah.
thought they were going to be some do-nothings, and they did something.
Yeah, even in the beginning of the scene, like when we first saw the throne room, I'm like, they're not going to do anything. They're just going to stand there and look cool. But, dude, they kick ass. Like, they are formidable enemies.
I mean, they all die, but they are formidable.
dude,
enemies.
just like that backwards saber straight through.
Yeah. That was one of the moments that got an applause in my theater.
Yeah.
That was rad, dude. That was super rad.
Yeah, it got a applause in my theater as well, even in the 10 o'clock showing. There's people with kids in there. We walk
10
out.
o'clock
Yeah,
showing?
we walk out at 12:45, and you see people with their kids all slumped over like a dead Jawa. Yeah, that's pretty messed up, to be honest. But
Yeah.
Whatever. Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
And again, anyone who's watching live, this is spoiler. You can read it here. Spoiler. So yeah, I don't know if anyone's watching.
I don't know either.
But I was kinda back and forth.
Let's do... I actually want to watch it again before we do our positives and start going into character dissections. So let's answer this one question that I have from my dude, Steven Lindgren, who listens to the show. So the question is, or it's both a question and a statement and some observations. It starts out, so is what Kylo said about Rey's parents the whole truth and that's it, which would be kind of lame, or is there more to it? There has to be, right? Is Leia the last Skywalker? Will this be the end of the Skywalker family? Things I noticed in the movie. The foot soldier touched the ground and licked his fingers. Salt. Random? But not. Later when Kylo and Luke were facing off, Luke smiles as he looks at Kylo slide his foot back, and there's a footprint in the salt. Later when they switch sides, Luke slides his foot back. No footprint. He also has the blue saber, which was broken in half earlier in the movie, and his appearance was younger. Before the audience even knows that Luke really isn't there, we were given clues. Next question. Where are the Knights of Ren? It was said that some of the other apprentices left with Kylo, which we can assume are the Knights of Ren. There was a scene in The Force Awakens, a flashback, where we see them standing in the rain before The Last Jedi. I assumed that was when Kylo had attacked the academy where Luke taught, but it wasn't. Where did that scene take place? What was actually going on in the flashback in The Force Awakens? And where are the Knights of Ren? There were a lot of parallels between 5 and 8, like there were with 4 and 7. Will this continue in 9? Will it follow the same pattern as 6? Will Kylo be brought back in the end?
Stefan,
Even after
these are
several
way
times.
too many questions in a
It
row.
is.
Let's do one at a time. Let's start at the top.
I'm trying to finish the email.
Okay, just finish the email and then we'll have to break it down because I already forgot what the first 2 questions were.
Yeah, I know. Even after several times it's mentioned that he is past this point. I guess we'll have to see. Okay, so I'm going to scroll back to the beginning.
Oh, okay, that was it.
Okay, so is what Kylo said about Rey's parents the whole truth and that's it, which might be lame, or is there more to it?
Okay, so first of all, that was one of my main theories is that her parents are no one, that they're not Force sensitive. Because that happens all the time in like Clone Wars and Rebels. Ezra's parents aren't Force sensitive. You have a lot of different kids in Clone Wars that their parents weren't Force sensitive. And then I have no problem with the Skywalker line ending, other than, well, because you have Kylo Ren, but he's technically he's Skywalker blood. I don't know if I think he's past having a relationship with children, unless something happened down at the academy that we don't know about. Ciao. But I think that also led into the ending scene of the movie. And I think that it's important because there are people all across the galaxy, and you don't have to be under that bloodline. You don't even have to be of the Jedi faith to be force sensitive or be a force user or be able to become a Jedi. So I like that a lot. I really did like that. And I don't think that it's going to be expanded upon at all. I think that it's the truth.
That's what it is.
I think that's what it is. I think it's that she just had regular parents that just sold her off and they didn't care about her at all. And that was it. I think that he kind of pulled at that pain and then made her, you know, he said that she's known the whole time, but she's been blocking it out. So I think that that is the truth. I think that her parents were nobodies. And I think that that gives kind of legitimacy to the fact that there are more in the galaxy, that there could be hundreds, if not thousands, of force-sensitive children that could be turned to, you know, trained into Jedi. So I think that that's more important than her being part of a line. I really like the Rey Palpatine theory, but I do think that it was important. It definitely was important to know that she comes from nobodies, but she is creating her own future. You know, that's her past that she's killing. You know, she needs to kill the past as in her own, you know, things that are holding her back, like her parents, things like that. She needs to realize that they're not important. She needs to move on and be her, you know, be yourself and figure everything out. And it doesn't matter where you come from. It's what you do and where you go with it. So I think both in story-wise, it's smart, and also in a social commentary-wise. Whereas, you know, everyone, you know, it's just the same in real life. They want to put, every Star Wars movie has something to learn from it. And I think that that's one of the biggest things, is no matter where you start, you can end up somewhere different. And that could be a good way or a bad way. But I think that knowing that she comes from nothing, but she's so powerful, gives us some more questions about the Force than it does about her lineage, which is more important to see how people become so powerful, why are specific people so powerful, and why do certain people get pulled to the dark side and certain people get pulled to the light? Are the Skywalkers the only ones that really have that big of a temptation to them? You know, it's kind of it does create a lot of questions, but it doesn't matter who her parents are. And that's what Daisy Ridley said from the beginning, that it doesn't matter who her parents are, it matters where she's going. And that was the story, is that it doesn't matter who her parents are, because they're nobodies. But again, it does kind of matter because it's showing that Jedi can come from anyone, anywhere, you know?
Yeah. I have a couple of responses to this question. I have my immediate response, which was understanding but unsatisfied.
Mm-hmm.
I have my deeper response, which is I felt at the end of the movie, which is the larger scale, when we see the stable boy, that anybody can become or has the potential to be a Force user.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what your bloodline is. Like Kylo said, let the past die, start anew. But the reason I initially had a problem with it is because of The Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm.
Why would the Skywalker lightsaber call to her and choose her? And I posed that as a question if she was a random scavenger.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the few things that The Last Jedi gave me was a possible answer to that. And that the reason Rey is so powerful, and I forget who said it, I have to watch the movie again. It might have been Snoke.
Mm-hmm.
Darkness rises and light to meet it.
So he was trying to bring balance himself by making a light side user powerful, but...
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far. I think that maybe the Force did that. I mean...
Yeah, that would make more sense.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't say that Snoke did that. I would say that the reason Rey is so powerful is because she is for whatever reason, the Force chose her, and she is a response to the rising of the darkness and the power of Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, and Snoke. She's a direct response to that. And the Skywalker lightsaber, for all the pain it's caused, is probably the most powerful Force relic at the time in the galaxy. And at that moment in the snow, the Force was trying to, reinsert balance, and poured so much energy into Rey and bringing up the light side that I think it overpowered the darkness in that moment.
But now, do you think that the killing Snoke off, does that take it off balance? Do you think that that's why Kylo Ren really had to go to the dark side, is because there was no balance? And now there's technically a balance, because it's like one conflicted light side user and one conflicted dark side user.
Yeah, this might be the most balanced it's ever been.
Yeah, it really is balanced with unbalanced people.
Very much so. Let's see. What was the second question? There was 4.
Oh yeah, let's go back to the questions.
Okay. Is Leia the last Skywalker? Technically, no, because she's a Solo. But
well,
I know what the question is.
I don't think they ever got married, though. I don't know. I don't think it's the same culture either, but
yeah,
I think that
it's
Kylo
Leia.
Ren's
It's
the last
Leia and Ben right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kylo Ren's the last Skywalker. Even, technically, Leia's not dead yet, so Leia and Kylo Ren are the last Skywalkers. If Kylo Ren gets killed before Leia, Leia's the last Skywalker.
Yeah.
If Leia is killed before Kylo Ren's the last Skywalker. So, we'll see.
Yes. The stuff about the sand on Crate, very good observation. I will have to rewatch it myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
I noticed it right away with,
Did you?
Not that part, but with, him showing up younger in different clothing and everything.
Well, yeah,
like
I noticed that.
There was that. I noticed that right away, that I was like, okay, this must be a Force projection or something like that. Or, he came back in a younger form somehow. But again, that kind of, I really do like that observation of it, that even just explaining the salt and explaining everything like that, it shows obvious, it shows a footprint, just specifically just a footprint being made. And then it shows that Luke isn't making footprints, And I didn't notice that, but that makes sense. I noticed the close up on the footprint, but I didn't notice that Luke didn't have any. And I was kind of curious also, like why Luke wasn't really like defending himself. Really, he was just like dodging everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that lightsaber doesn't exist anymore. And that was another thing that was kind of weird that I noticed that part though. I was like, which lightsaber is that?
Yeah.
I thought that guy, what happened? I thought that thing like exploded.
He didn't have time to rebuild it.
Yeah.
It's like, he went to the split in half supremacy, rebuilt it. Something's not right here. Okay.
What did you think about that whole sequence of the Force projection?
I mean, I liked it. I wish we could have seen them have an actual lightsaber battle.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Mark Hamill meant when he was saying that he didn't completely agree with the ending of Luke, but he saw that it was correct and it was right with the story, and he knew Ryan knew what he was doing in that situation.
Yeah.
But I can tell that he was a little upset that he didn't have any hand-to-hand combat at all. And I was hoping that I would see him have, hand-to-hand combat and lightsaber combat and everything like that, is that he would be, some badass using the Force against people, like that maybe the Knights of Ren would show up on the island with Kylo Ren and they would have that last battle there, but they never got to the island. They don't even know where that's at. And one thing that I was also thinking of is Rey going to return to the island? And where it seems as though you can conjure up the Force, and like that center seal, it was almost like a Force beacon that was like that he could reach out using that. And also like Yoda showing up on the island and as more of a physical entity rather than a ghost, kind of supports that other theory about that's kind of like the island of the dead a little bit, where the Force can like almost create a physical being because of the power of the Force on that island. I was really hoping to see some sort of Alec Guinness, not CG, but maybe like an old thing that they threw in. That'd be kind of cool. If you just saw him standing there, that'd be kind of cool. But I could see why they didn't do it.
Yeah.
But what was the rest of that question?
Yeah, so the last part was where are the Knights of Ren, and what's up with the Force back in episode 7, because it clearly wasn't from the Academy, right? Because I'll answer this first. I think the Force back, where the Knights of Ren, think about what happened in this movie. The Praetorian Guards are gone. Snoke is gone. Kylo Ren, is he just going to deal with, it's just going to be him and Hux in 9?
I think that, yeah, especially with what we were just saying about
Phasma's gone too. Phasma's gone too.
Yeah,
so.
we lost all of the main antagonists other than Kylo Ren, which we were hoping would become a protagonist. And I guess that does answer the fact that he could still perhaps maybe change if the Knights of Ren come back and they do something he doesn't like, So, but I really think that most of that is going to be addressed in 9, because they have to explain some of that stuff. I think that you have the introduction and the questions and everything. And then with The Last Jedi, you have the story building. You see where these characters are going. You see this is such a switch up in the story that they're setting it up for a whole different line. That one thing that I was also like joking about a little bit before is like, what if everyone dies and they have to start over? Like they start over again with 9, and it's like
Not that far off.
it's not that far off.
Yeah.
Everyone dies on like on the First Order side, and then except for Hux and Kylo, and then you have Luke's gone, but I think his spirit's still with the with the resistance, with the rebellion. It's that hope that they needed that kept them together, and I thought that was an important part. That was really cool.
Definitely. And the very last part of the question. Oh, and I think the Force back from 7.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're gonna see that in 9.
You think we're gonna see like that exact sequence?
Maybe not the exact.
I mean that.
I'm gonna say yeah. I'm gonna say yeah.
Not the same shots that are used, but I mean like the.
I'm gonna
like
say
that
he'll follow
situation.
up on that. Yeah.
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 Well, especially
'Cause-
because J.J. Abrams is directing it again.
Exactly.
So that's going to be interesting because I'm sure that he'll have to go back and address the Knights of Ren, especially because he, wrote it. He helped write that, so it's like
exactly. Ryan clearly didn't have any interest in that, or because he killed fucking everyone, wanted to save something for JJ.
yeah.
So, I think that's what he's left with, and I think we'll see that in 9.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, maybe there's a time jump and the slaughter is at Rey's new academy.
Yeah, I really think that there is going to be a time jump. I
There's
thought
gotta
that
be, yeah.
last night. Getting kind of a buzz here. There's my. Oh, whatever. I was thinking that on my way home from seeing it. I was thinking like how because I was talking to Carly about the whole thing, what we just watched, everything, and I think that there will be a time jump to where Rey will have her own, her own academy type thing. She'll have her own Padawans, and maybe they will still follow the Jedi order, because is it that she's bringing back the Jedi, or is she bringing back something completely different? Because you know how Yoda said that it is the time for the Jedi to end, but maybe he was just kind of playing into what Luke was saying, as in it's time for the Jedi texts and all of that stuff, all these old books to end. He just destroys the tree with lightning.
Like the Bendu.
Yeah, like the Bendu, exactly. So that's one thing that we should definitely get into after watching a few times. Really get into the Force usage behind Yoda in that situation and what it means for the future and what it means for the the Force, the possibilities with the Force.
Dude, honestly, there's like a million other things I want to touch on with this movie.
Yeah.
But we have 2 more years to cover it.
We do.
And we're going to record again
Oh, yeah.
soon.
Yeah, this is kind of just first reactions. This is what we have right now. I know that we could keep going, but
I want to record it after I see it another time.
yeah, I do too.
To where, because
I might go tomorrow, actually.
I didn't like The Force Awakens at first either. Now it's one of my, like, probably in my top 3.
Yeah.
I was like, it's hard to, it's almost hard for me to enjoy Star Wars because I'm so nervous when I see it for the
Yeah.
first time. It's weird. I have
Mhm.
I had butterflies all day.
Oh, dude.
For
yeah.
The Last Jedi, and I think I was just going in expecting so much and just to unravel all this stuff, and now I gotta go see it again, and when I'm just relaxed and enjoy it, I think, and not be so weighed down by expectation.
Mm-hmm. And I'm also looking forward to when they release the novelization I'll definitely want to listen to that and see what extra things that they've added in there or things that were taken out of the final cut of the movie that were left in that, because there was quite a bit cut out. It was like a 3.5 hour movie in the first cut.
Crazy.
Yeah, and then also I read that Ryan Johnson wanted to film at like 150 sets, like 150 different sets in like different locations, but they only had like a 100-day shooting schedule. So they were like doing multiple sets per day, but they ended up only being able to do like 120. But shit. Still, it's like 120 sets. There was a lot of different places within the same. There's a lot. You could tell there were a lot of sets, but they were still confined to the same planets. We weren't really introduced to too much as far as in a grand scale, but we really got to see. We did see a lot of Canto Bight in a very short amount of time. So that was impressive, seeing everything. You understand it, you get it. One thing we didn't even talk about at all was DJ. We'll have to get into him altogether.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about him.
I have a huge, and it totally went towards my anti-Han Solo idea of who he would be. You know, someone that's going to help them out. He, says that he's going to, take their payment or whatever and do whatever they want. And then he turns good and then whatever. And then this one went the whole other way.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I have a lot of thoughts about DJ. Yeah. Especially because I was hyping up Benicio del Toro, which Benicio del Toro did a good job.
I liked his speech impediment. Yeah. That was kind of cool. He
was very...
I think he was on drugs. Because he kept on... he had, the little, spice packet. They kind of talk about it on the Canto Bight book.
Is that what he was doing?
Yeah. When he would, put it, in his lip or something like that. That was... He was doing drugs pretty much throughout the whole thing. And I think that maybe that... I don't know if it was so much a speech impediment as it was a stutter because he was on one.
Yeah. Could have been, man.
I'm on one.
Oh. One.
All right. Well, I think that if you have any final thoughts, let them out, because I think we're reaching the final destination on this one. This is a pretty long episode.
Yeah,
so.
I think we're reaching critical mass. I have a ton of thoughts, none of which will be sufficiently answered for the duration of this podcast.
Yeah.
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 So
absolutely.
I think we got what we wanted to say out. There's a lot that we still have to say, and there's a lot that we don't want to respond to until we see it again, so that we don't overreact or underreact.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So, yeah, everyone. This was our first live show. Didn't go very well because the first half didn't have audio. But you'll be able to see this on YouTube. I'll edit that with the audio I've recorded, and you're obviously hear it on iTunes, everything. All of the links are on my MySpace. Really? I was going to say MySpace.
They're not there.
They're not on MySpace. We should get on MySpace. Get fans wherever we can. No, we're on StarWarsAfterHours.com. You can find everything out. Wow, this is just late at night. It's a long day. StarWarsAfterHours.com. Find everything there. Audible.com. 30-day free trial. Free audiobook. You keep it if you cancel.
Yeah. Also, we're at 7 reviews on iTunes. Josh, do you know what my goal is before Christmas?
I don't know your goal.
5,000. Let's get to 5,000.
5,000 reviews now.
Yes.
Before next week.
Yeah, but 5 stars on iTunes. StarWarsAfterHours@gmail.com. Questions, concerns, hate mail, whatever. StarWarsAfterHours@gmail.com. We read it on the show, just like we did with Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next week or something like that. Bye.
So be it. Jedi.
He's no good to me dead.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
You know what's going on?